behavior time, because they're not watching your tapes, trust me, they're watching a lot of other stuff. A lot of adult kind of ideas and visions, but it's also giving them, we think the average child in this country gets about 20,000 messages a year delivered to them to want fast food, junk food, and sweetened beverages. So that's kind of where we face, and then we could look at the health risk. This is the guy taking his dog for a walk. And below, we are saying that the animal kind of looks like the person it lives with. Below is a cat watching TV. And just a little bit of some data, I don't think you need to concentrate on it, but sedentary behavior, no matter what weight you are at, that the more sedentary you are, the least fit you are, the more of a health risk it is. And that bottom, you can imagine that line is going up, and it's showing that with sedentary behavior, you actually don't have your body respond normally to the hormone insulin. And that leads to diabetes. And all I have to do to say to some of my patients, and we've got wonderful data, is we put them on a treadmill for an hour. And you can imagine that some of the kids in our center can't withstand a treadmill for an hour. But at the end, if they're still standing, we can see that we've already, just by that alone, improved how their body responds to the hormone insulin. And if you do that every day and you get them conditioned, then they become very sensitive to this key hormone that allows us to live our lives with health. So we've got tons of medical data. I could be up here, trust me, if you gave me an unlimited time period, I would exceed it with data supporting what you guys do. I mean, there is no doubt, and I'm sure none of you have any doubt, that your message of appropriate food intake and of appropriate physical activity, of kind of getting back to what those Paleolithic ancestors of ours lived like, minus the loincloth, that is a road to health. And that all these other things that we've done to, now don't get me wrong, combating starvation was a great idea. And that was progress. For the entire time period we have been on the planet, we have collectively worked to combat starvation, to get energy-saving devices so that we could all sit in rooms like this and read books and develop culture and civilization. And it was all good until a couple decades ago, where somehow we just went a little bit more on the wrong path. And now what we have to do is we have to redefine progress for us. Not about can we get the most calories to the most people every day, but can we actually get the nutrient-appropriate calories in the right serving size to everybody every day so that they can have appropriate nutrient and caloric intake. That would be progress. What would also be progress is, can we get people to become physically active again, because that's a key important measure for our bodies to achieve. And not to get another energy-saving device so that ultimately I can sit in front of my computer or TV and click a mouse and have all my food delivered to me. I don't even have to get off my duff to get it. So we have to figure out, how do we keep people active all day long? How do we get people to do bursts of physical exercise that actually improve our physical well-being? And that will be progress going forward. We've got to redefine what progress means, and you are a group of people who are there. I mean, you are, don't want to sound too hyperbolic here, but you've got the concept of getting back in energy balance. And whether you're doing it, whether the people you interact with are doing it because they want to look better, they want to get into that dress before their son gets married in May, or because they know this is the road to health, it doesn't really matter as long as they do it. And, I can tell you, as a physician, I am now almost compelled in my practice to suggest to my patients, matter of fact, They come and they look through my charts to be sure that I recognize an overweight or obese individual. Did I diagnose that? Did I do the appropriate medical workup? And then, in the end, did I refer them to a program? Now, the beauty of it is, in quotes, the program can be pretty much anything. But they want to see that I at least made that connection for my patients, that I told them something needs to be done. And then, of course, what the average physician says is, well, go find one, because I don't have them. I don't know where they are. It's not my responsibility. But at least to make that connection that something's got to be done about your weight. Because if we don't even do that, they don't recognize it, and they just keep on the same path. So this is going to be a big push, because this is what happens when you are not fit and when you are overweight. I mean, lung disease, sleep apnea, so people can't stay awake during the day and they can't sleep well at night, and this happens in children. Gallbladder disease, gynecologic problems for women. We are now seeing teenage girls who, because of their weight and how insulin works in their body, they shut their ovary into a new pathway that makes mainly male hormone rather than female hormone. So these 15 and 16-year-old girls come to us with beards, who weigh so much. They come to us with acne. They come losing their periods, and they are infertile unless we can turn this around. We see all kinds of other issues of headaches and skin problems, but the main are coronary artery disease and diabetes. Most people in this country will die of a heart attack or a stroke. The big question is, when do you want that to occur? We are now watching 30 and 40-year-olds having increasing rates of cardiovascular disease. And they can have a cardiovascular event that's crippling for the rest of their lives. And we can avoid that. We're watching more and more people develop diabetes, most of which is preventable if we can get them back to a healthy lifestyle. Busy slide just to show you the trends in the state of California. So that really dark blue on that panel, whichever direction it is, the single one, those are the number of people who have morbid obesity. So that means they weigh usually over 250 pounds. In pediatric centers across the country, when we do research now, we've had to buy extra scales. I now have a scale in my office that weighs children over 350 pounds because that's what I needed to do. So we're watching the normal weight, those light blue, go down, and the number of people overweight and now morbidly obese go up in the state of California. And then on the other one, that leads to the increase in death. And that leads to, so maybe, you can say to me, I don't really care. These are all about personal responsibility. It's some person's problem if they decide to do this to their own health. It's not my fault. It's not my responsibility. But I'll show you on that bottom panel, it affects all of our lives and what our healthcare budget costs to our nation. And across the world, what healthcare budgets are costing to everybody's nation. We're going to probably watch this have the biggest impact in India and China, where I just came back from when I was filming my documentary in India, clinics in which it wasn't uncommon to have 100,000 patients with diabetes. You can't believe it until you see it. It's like an assembly line of all these people affected as they come out of starvation and go to this environment that, they all kind of want to blame the U.S. for all these things they've imported. Most of it is their own changing lifestyle. Sedentary behavior all through India. You see satellite dishes, you see cars, you don't see people walking or biking anymore, and you see eating more and more and more and getting overweight with diseases. So you've already seen the increase in childhood obesity. There's a child with sleep apnea at age 11, has to sleep with a machine every night, and the girl in the other panel has changes in her skin. I can stand behind her in line at McDonald's if I went, and see that she's got insulin resistance.